Well, welcome. Tonight, we're going to look at the other side of the schools. We take pride and we spend a lot of time talking about our athletics as part of something that this man here, who we'll introduce in a second, told me when he first joined. I can't remember how many years ago that
It's a
was.
dozen now.
12
dozen
years ago, he
yeah,
said
yep.
he takes pride in his student athletes. And that put everything in perspective for me. Because as much as it's enjoyable to watch the athletic programs, 99.9% of these kids are not going to make it their profession. So it's important that you have the athletic director keep in perspective that the goal is to make them great students and athletes. But you don't sacrifice one, the academics, for the athletic group. Why don't we start with an introduction?
Sure. Peter Boucher, Director of Athletics for the high school and Stacy Middle School. 12 years in and still pumped to be adopted 12 years ago. Born in Milford, born at the hospital. I always say that, but took me 40 years to find my way home, and I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that the town has adopted me. The kids, we all get it. It's just great. We got a great thing going. So,
Well, as I said, you struck a chord when you talk about your student athletes and the fact that you drive home the point that when they're out and about, they're representing the whole town.
yeah, exactly. That's one of our core values. We call that Scarlet Hawk 24/7. I always say to the kids, multiple times throughout the year, as often as I can, that even when you're not wearing red and white, you're wearing red and white. People recognize you. Social media, people go to games, meets, matches, and they recognize the coaches, they recognize the kids, the players, they recognize people like me. So you gotta conduct yourself accordingly all the time. I say you're always on stage, so you gotta behave accordingly. And the other thing we always say is you gotta do your day job if you're gonna be able to do your afternoon job. You gotta get your grades right, or you can't practice and play in the afternoons. And the kids, they get it. The teachers do a great job, the coaches do a great job, our admin really encourages. The families do a great job, so they work hard. I'm proud of those guys and gals.
Now, there's a minimum cume they must maintain, correct?
Yes, yeah, yes. So you have to earn 24 Carnegie units. So that's 4 major classes. Those are 6 credits. You have to pass those, and that's above average. That's a little bit above what the state wants. So we, Milford's set the bar high, and we try to keep it high. And a lot of schools you can pass with a 60, and at Milford it's 65. So I got to be honest, I like that when I arrived too. It's not asking a lot to maintain 65, and that's not a great grade, a D, a D minus, right? But in a lot of schools across the country, the lowest denominator is a 60, and the fact that we keep it at 65 I like that. It's good.
Well, again, you're setting them up for success in the future.
Exactly. Right,
Because if they get by with a D, I don't know many colleges that are going to take D students.
No. And think about a job. If you're doing a D performance, you're probably not going to hang around too long. They're going to show you the door.
Best be learning to say, do you want fries with that order?
Yes, yeah. You don't want to be doing that too far into your. I get it. No, I get it. It's no. We try to keep our expectations high, and accountability needs to be there as well. So we do. We hang in there. We keep an eye on the kids, and if somebody's struggling, we work with them. We'll partner them up with other kids or some of the coaches. Obviously, a lot of our Incidentally, I'll mention this. We have one of the highest staff to coaches ratios in the country, not just New England, the country. I'll share this. We didn't talk about this at all, but I really haven't brought it up on the show. So, data across. I'm on 2 national committees at this point. One of them is. About, we talk about the relationships and the connectivity and the collaborations of having coaches being teachers or staff members in the building, right? And every single piece of data point there talks about how that is helpful, encouraging, optimistic, positive, right? Make your coaches walking through the halls, and you're gonna all season long and all year long, you're gonna probably keep an eye on yourself a little bit more than you normally would, right? So basically what the trending data across the globe says, if you can get to 50%, that's like an A or an A minus, right? So if 50% of your coaches work in the district somewhere, teaching assistant, teacher, you name any position you want, right? Like 50% is considered really good. We are cracking 89%. So we're tops in the country. There are not many other districts in the country that can say almost 90% of their coaches work somewhere, some way in the district. And it's just, it's better for the kids, it's better for the coaches. I could talk about that all night long, but it's wonderful.
How, if I wanted to coach,
Mhm.
I have a day job,
You've hit the nail on the head, yes.
9 to 5, 9 to 6.
Can't coach.
How could I even,
Can't. So we have a gene pool of like 3 buckets, right? Teachers, retired people, and independent business people. They got to own their own business, right?
Yeah.
Or you got to work. Very rarely do you find somebody who works 11 to 7. But for the most part, it's teachers, it's retired people, and it's independent business people. You work 9 to 5. You're not because most of our practices start at 2:45 or 3.
I was going to say it's right after school,
Yeah.
and that's the middle of the day.
Yeah, because if the kids go home, you got to practice at like 4, 5, 6 o'clock. Your attendance isn't as great as it should be. We want our kids walking out, quick snack, quick bathroom break, change, get out to practice. Flip the script, get out to practice for 3 o'clock. That's what we try to do as much as we can.
And it's not like Texas or all where you're paying coaches phenomenal money.
Oh goodness, no. And that's the other thing. That's a really good point.
Have we gotten to minimum wage on our coaches yet?
Listen, you're lucky if you're $1 an hour, and I'm not complaining because Milford pays well, right? We have really good.
We have
coaches.
competitive stipends and all, but
We do.
when you really look at the time they put in,
the 2 hours every day, 6 days a week is just. When I say just, that's skill and drill, right? That's fitness. That's the physical practice. Coaches have to plan for those. I expect them to plan every 15 minutes of every practice, right? You got to scout. You gotta really watch film on your own team to make sure we're doing what we need to do to make sure, you're figuring out, can I move kids around? What are my subs going to look like? And the reality is, it's no joke. It's probably about $1 an hour by the time we're done. Coaches don't coach to get rich, right? They coach because they love the sport. The sport probably changed their lives. If you speak to just about any coach, and myself included, without athletics, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't have. There's just so many things that changed my life, right? Probably you too. And you want to give back, and you like working with kids. It's those two things. You love the sport, and you love working with kids, and it's nice to get compensated. It is, but most places don't. Like you said, down south a little different, but up here in New England.
well, I had a woman athlete living with us for years. She played on the U.S. national team.
Oh, soccer team, right?
Soccer team.
Yes,
was.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
And she was living with us. It started out with a call from her manager saying, "Can you put a girl up for a weekend,
Oh,
a
boy.
week, a month,
Yeah.
a year,
My
2
gosh.
years?"
Can you keep her?
And it was interesting because she came from a little school called Odessa Permian.
Okay.
And people have known that name from Friday Night Lights.
I was just going to say, I recognize the name. I do, yeah.
And
Odessa.
She was amazed when I took her to our first football game.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't what she was
And she
expecting.
looked at her and said, "Where is everybody?"
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "Well, the place is empty." I said, "No, we got a couple. What do we
Couple
get?
thousand,
couple
right?
thousand people.
Yeah.
You know."
They're used to stadiums, 50,000 people, right?
She says we normally get 20, 25,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
She said that we played our divisional playoffs in the Astrodome.
Wow.
80,000 people or
And
something.
they probably came close to capacity.
It was craziness.
Down south it's a little crazy, but it's.
But now when you say scouting, you're talking about scouting the other teams.
Yes.
Because you don't get to scout kids.
No, not really. Like here's the thing. To be honest, scouting has really jumped into the future by leaps and bounds. Every school in our league has huddle, so we transfer tapes. Every single varsity game is taped. It's uploaded. You have to share it with the league, right? Also, there isn't a team that I'm aware of in New England that doesn't put their games up on YouTube. So if you want to scout a team, and you should, like our coaches are expected to do that, to gain whatever advantage or at least understand what we're doing and what we're trying to do against the other team. You can, there's video everywhere of the other teams. So if you don't do that work, you're already at a disadvantage when the bus rolls in or when their bus rolls in. So coaches have to do a lot more studying and planning than they did probably 10 or 12, even 10 or 12 years ago. They do. Because everybody's so ready for each other.
But it's mandatory that you share game tapes.
Yes, yep.
Well, that's good.
Isn't that, yeah. So like for, basically I think you have, some sports it's 24 hours, other sports it's no more than 48 hours. Anybody that plays on the turf, soccer, field hockey, football, right, lacrosse, you have to upload your game tape within a day. And if you don't, you better believe that, if there's let's say Attleboro's looking for the Milford boys lacrosse and it's not there on time, you get a phone call, hey, where's your tape? Where is it? And you don't really want to deal with that. You just want to load it up and get it in there. And
Now, obviously, the school must pay for the taping.
you know what? The boosters got us going about 10, 11 years ago, 12 years ago when I arrived. And then it's gotten a little bit more expensive year on year. So what's happened is the school has absorbed that. They do. We now have all the cameras. We have a camera in the gym. We have a camera at the turf. Boosters and the sports teams got together to pay for the cameras. And now the school has absorbed the subscription, the yearly subscription. Good questions. These are good questions. Sure.
No, it's interesting because everything's getting tighter and tighter.
Yes, yeah. And it's mandatory. Like we can't, if we don't have huddle, you really, honestly, you're not allowed to play. You have to have huddle. You have to have arbiter if you're in Massachusetts. If you are in the MIA, you have to have what's called a digital scheduler. So let's say I'm trying to get a hold of Franklin for a game. I have to put it on the arbiter. They then, time, date at Milford. Then referees are assigned through that platform, but Franklin has to get in there. They have to look at the game. They have to click yes, and then it's uploaded, and everybody in the world can see it on arbiter.com. It's crazy. But then you really don't even necessarily have to talk to you do have to talk to the AD because, hey, we're going to play a non-league game with you, or, hey, this is our league game. But the reality is you could do it all digitally if you wanted to. And if you don't have that, you're lost. You really, the MIA expects you to have the arbiter and huddle. It's wild. Where technology has taken us. It really is.
Now, aren't you at a disadvantage against, I call them club teams, but, you've got private schools.
Notice my change in demeanor.
You got one school that I think you said there was 40
Yes.
towns contributed.
Boys
kids.
basketball played a tremendous game last night against Malden Catholic. Our football team ends up with Catholic Memorial in the Final Four almost annually, right? And, nothing against those teams. I love to compete, right? But here's the difference, and here's really what it comes to. And I'll use, and again, no disrespect. I spoke this to the athletic director last night. So Milford is Milford, right? We have some kids' school choice in. We have some kids' school choice out. It is what it is, right? We're one town. We're okay with that.
Well,
Rock and
some
roll.
sports you get one or two from Hopedale.
Yes, and some, yes.
But
it's not a tremendous advantage.
It's a Milford team.
Yes, it's a Milford. 99.9% of our teams are Milford through and through, right? We're good with that. But when you go up against a Malden Catholic or a Catholic Memorial or Bishop Feehan, right? You are now at the varsity level, in my opinion, and I'm going on the record with this because I have in other places, at conferences with the MIA. You're playing 35, 38, 40 other towns. For example, Bishop Feehan pulls from Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So if you decide to play Feehan, which we do in some sports, right, non-league, we do, you're playing kids from Cumberland, you're playing kids from Lincoln, you're playing kids from Smithfield, and not to mention the entire Attleboro region, North Attleboro, South Attleboro, Dighton, Rehoboth, Seekonk, name it. Right? You play Zavarian, you're playing 35, 38 towns, and you better believe that those kids matriculate, cream rises to the top. You're playing, I can tell you when we've played Catholic Memorial a couple of times, they've put in their second and third guys. Those are scholarship kids to D1 and D2 schools. They're second and third string kids. So when we need a break, we put our second string kids in. We're still pretty good. they have collegiate athletes at the second and third tier.
Why do they mix them?
You mean how do they?
Why wouldn't you have private school league?
That's
like
a great question. We're really looking into that. So, for example, I believe New York, maybe New Jersey have a model where New York tried it. I believe it's New Jersey, because the league is the 12 schools are heavily looking into this. I'm very happy to schedule non-league games
Yeah.
with private schools if it's a good matchup. We have a lot of our programs that can go toe-to-toe and win.
Even if you're playing a school, I don't want this to seem disrespectful, that is much better than you.
Yeah, sure. They're out there.
You know, I mean,
They're out
I
there.
always get a kick out of going to Penn State, and their first game of the year is always Okefenokee
Yes.
High School or something, you know. But I asked, why do they put themselves through this?
Yeah.
Because you're stepping up against, you know, a team that's ranked third, fourth, fifth every
Yes.
year.
Yep.
And they told me that, well, it's the experience.
Yes. Yep.
But it doesn't count against them because it's not
No,
a
it doesn't
league.
hurt you. No, and same thing with us. Like, we have people that are trying to play our football team, our soccer team, our wrestling team, our boys volleyball. You know, just saying. And a lot of times we beat those teams up pretty good. But you know what? The first thing that I've heard them say it walking out the door. That's who we want to be. That's where you got to get if you want to be a champion. That's where you got to be. This is how you got to practice and perform to get to that level. And we love being that role model, right? And in other sports, we have to, you know, I didn't mean to leave anybody out. We have other, you know, swim. We have so many cheer. We have so many other teams that, you know, are at that level. And we have teams that are, you know, are definitely fighting to get to that level. But that's why you do it. Because you know, you want to climb the ladder. But when you play a team like that, this is where you want to be. Or like boys soccer, we play St. John's Prep from Danvers every year. They have kids from Australia, Canada, California. The one thing I always ask for is, can I have your roster, and does it have their hometown? Because I want to show the boys, hey, you're from Milford. We're playing the whole world right now. Go get a W. And they don't care. They don't care because they just
Yeah, and again,
they want to play. They want to win.
A non-league perspective,
Yes.
I think it's a great idea. But it seems kind of hard to
Yes.
say, Milford, you're playing these other
Private
all-star
schools.
teams,
Yeah.
private teams.
Like, for example, last night with basketball, we're a really darn good boys basketball team. We can play with just about, and we did play with anybody last night. Like, we beat Long Meadow. They were good. First round, we draw the number 1 seed, Malden Catholic. They've won the state championship 3 years in a row. They're chasing a 4th title this year. And we said, what time do you want to play? Could be midnight. We don't care. We'll rock and roll. We rolled into Malden Catholic, you know, and that put up a great fight. Proud of the boys, proud of the coaches, proud of the families and the fans. But when you find out that you're playing really an all-star team and you don't have any choice, let us form an all-star team too. But you know, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because we don't teach that at Milford. You
Yeah.
never did, and we don't do it now. It's, hey, whoever they assign us, we'll play you at midnight, we'll play you at 6 a.m., we'll play you at 7 p.m. We don't care. But it'd be nice to have, I never use the word fair because life's not fair, right? Life's not fair for anybody. But it's nice to be a little bit more even. That's all. That's all we're asking for, you know. We'd like to play, hey, listen, we'll play King Philip, that's 3 towns. We'll play Oliver Ames, that's 2 towns. We'll play Dighton Rehoboth, that's 2 towns. 40? You're asking for a lot there.
Well, I mean, it's
Anybody.
15% of the Commonwealth.
Yes, right?
You
And
only
better-
have 300 cities and towns.
Yeah. So that's a lot. It's a lot. It's you're
So, I mean, last
David
night,
versus Goliath, you know, kind of, sort of.
we didn't come out with a W, but morally, mentally,
Oh,
we
yeah.
did.
We were winning 1917 first quarter. I thought their coach's head was going to explode. I'd never seen a human volcano before, because I don't think they're used to that. But I'm proud of our guys. They rolled in, they got warmed up, and they just said, "Bring it, let's go." We scared the heck out of them. I think it was 36-32 at the half. Third quarter, it got a little dicey. Fourth quarter, we got it to within 13, 14 again. We went on a run the last 4 or 5 minutes.
As long
and
as the people in Milford, the fans, keep it in perspective.
they knew. Yeah, they knew.
Because years ago, the Holy Cross basketball team, the girls basketball team, used to go to UConn.
Mhm.
If we came within 50,
Yes,
moral
yes.
victory.
Yes, yeah. No, you have those moral victories, and I got it. You know, our fans are awesome. Standing ovation for our kids when the game was over. All the Milford people stood up. I mean, I was a little emotional. Like, how cool is that? Our fans get it. We don't win, but we're still proud because you know what? It was a moral victory. We went out and played 40 towns, and we gave them one hell of a game. I don't know if they'd want to play us again. I wonder if they'd want to play tomorrow. I don't know. We'd play them, but I don't know if they'd sign up for a second game. I just don't. I don't think it would be a good idea.
When you start looking at the other side, it's still too early in the year, but how are we doing on getting our athlete scholarships?
Yeah, no, it's starting to come in. I know I mentioned one of the things that people are signing, people are getting, they're being given roster spots. So typically after April vacation, we sort of do this celebration. We do our signings. I mean, the big one now that I would mention, and I absolutely just really love this young man. I've watched him wrestle since third or fourth grade. Mikey Belanger is going to go to Duke. He's been accepted, and he's going to wrestle there. He's just, what I like about him is he's quiet, never says a word, works so the wrestling program in general, I can't even, wow. I've watched them, so many of these kids since the third or fourth grade. There's such a great, iron sharpens iron. So many people would want to get in our wrestling room just to practice, because Mikey has to practice with Aiden Baum, who was a state champion like him, all-state champion, D2 state champions, all-state champions. They're both, it would take an entire show to talk about wrestling, but Mikey's just a really, really well-mannered, respectful, smart young man, and he's a great wrestler too. And I'm super excited for him because he's really carved
See, I
out a
love the
good
way you
path.
describe him. All the right attributes.
Right?
And by the way, he wrestles too.
Yeah, and he
He's a
wrestles
good-
too. Yeah. I mean, really, that's the caboose, right? Aiden's a great kid. Luke's a great. They're all great kids. That's a program that has culture, and it's got
So how did
years
the
and years of
kids?
experience.
How did the team do this year?
So sectional champions again, 5th sectional championship, league champions 5th year in a row, right? They won the D2 Division II state champions. That's the 3rd in 4 years, and they should have won last year, but there was some craziness with the scoring. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. They've won 3 out of 4, winning 1 state
I was going to
championship.
say, wait a minute. 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
There's
Ridiculous, right?
298 towns out there that would
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get to all states. We got 3rd at all states. I want to say we have 8 or 9 kids going to New England's this weekend. 2 girls are going, Amelia and Chloe. And we got some guys that are going to compete for New England championships coming from, mighty Milford. And that's just, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. I'll be there. I'm going to go, and I'll be the biggest fan when I just am. It's fun to watch. It's just, it gives you a sense of pride. I know it does for the entire town, but these kids are they're well behaved. They're really smart kids. They're respectful, and they wrestle really well too. That's culture. That's culture.
But that's a life lesson.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
that'll serve them well throughout their.
They've learned two things. Always be respectful, always work hard. Good things should happen. You don't always win, but you know what? 99% of the time you got a better chance to win if you're doing those 2
probability
things.
Was in your favor.
Absolutely.
If you're taught the high road and you take the high road.
Yes. Yep. Practice hard to win easy. That's what we say. You don't win on game day. You don't win meets and matches on game day. You win them in practice days, weeks, months, years earlier.
I mean, one of the things that I'm proud of is you don't hear a lot of controversy about Milford sports.
Nope. I will tell you, I'm very proud of this. The league has adopted how we host home meets, home matches, home games, right? The event staff that we put on, the way that we conduct ourselves, the terminology, the introductions that we use. Please cheer for your team. Don't jeer the other team. The league has taken our vernacular, right? And boom, the entire league uses that now. That's pretty cool. We're proud of that. And we're always mentioned top tier in the league when people start saying like, hey, how do you get your fans to behave? There are some towns that we go to that are not great in the league, but they're better than non-league. Some of our non-league crazy. But it's really nice to have the league say like, we like going to Milford. We like coming to you. You're crazy, but you're crazy good. You behave. You know how to chant. You know how to yell. You're not disrespectful. You know, the fans and the families, because parents yell too. You know, parents are fans. They're 50% of our fan base, and it's really nice to have that good sort of reputation and outlook. And people, when they say to you, "Hey, we'd like to," how did you get that? And I said, "Listen, I've only been here 12 years. This was here before I got here. My job is to perpetuate.
Keep it going.
That's it, what we do. You know, this was carved out, 70 years ago. I said, my job is to just keep the boat moving in the right direction and just make sure it's running really, really fast and strong.
So we've got
Maintain.
one athlete accepted by Duke.
Yes, yeah.
Any others yet?
You know, we've got, I don't want to start naming names and forget people, but, you know, we've got Stonehill kids. We've got, I know we've got 4 or 5 football players. I promise you, when I come back in for the spring, at the end of the spring, I'll have a list for you, and we'll go through it. But, yeah, we're going to be, I guarantee you, we're going to be 3 times the national average. Like, we should probably have 6 or 7. We'll have 18, 19, 20, 21
Yeah, I was
kids.
going to say, every year you tell me
It's
we're supposed
unbelievable.
to have half a dozen.
Yeah.
And we have
National
a dozen
average is
and a half.
4, 5, maybe 6%. We graduate, 100 to 105, 110 student athletes out of the senior class. Inevitably, there's 20 that are going to jump on an NCAA roster the next fall. So winter or spring, but the next year. It's awesome. And I attribute that to the town. The town has high expectations. The town appreciates excellence, and the town supports it, and so do the families individually. And the coaches, too.
You're being humble, because a lot of that, too, it's not just the town. It's the coaches that you pick.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
you and the environment you set.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We
Because
work hard.
if stuff was going wrong, they'd find you real fast.
And they do. Trust me. It's phone calls, text, emails. But you're right. It takes a village, and I think all of us, including our alumni, folks like you, Nick Sakil. I mean, you can go all the way down. I could name 1,000 people, right? But you're right. It takes a village, and we all if we all do our part, things are going to be okay.
How do you get the recent immigrant kids and their families involved in sports?
That's a good question. There's a natural tendency towards boys soccer, right? There's a natural tendency towards boys volleyball in that population. What we try to do outreach. We try to do clinics, free clinics over the summer. We'll run free camps, 3-day camps, 2-day camps. One of the other ways is we try to identify kids in our phys ed classes. By adding our 12 middle school teams, we try to carry as many kids as we can. We like to win, but we like numbers at the middle school level. We like them at the high school level too, but we have to pare the numbers down each year, freshman, JV, varsity, right? But we'd like to keep big numbers at the middle school. That's the way. We encourage kids to come out, and we just say, work hard. That's all we ask for. Work hard, show up, 2 things. I think the third frontier is going to be that phys ed, where, hopefully they're teaching team sports, individual sports, fitness, and identify. I got to be honest, when I was a teacher for 15 years in another district, you better believe I identified a lot of my kids in the phys ed classes and say, hey, you look like, and we taught wrestling, we taught track, we taught football, 2 weeks each, and we'd be like, wow, you were really fast, or hey, you can really, have you ever played tennis before? Because, no, I'm just natural. Okay, well, you should be going out for the tennis team next year, so there's multiple ways you can do that, and we're exploring. We have connections. A lot of our captains, one of our community outreaches is that our captains go to youth practices. They connect with the team. They go to the practices, and they encourage kids to matriculate forward, and we're working hard at that.
A few years ago, you made a concerted effort to go down to the middle school.
Yes, yeah.
I remember you were talking about, I think it was field hockey, that some of the teams we played had full 7th, 8th grade.
Yes, yeah.
And prior to middle school programs, and we had nothing. So
Yes.
the girls were playing their first games in high school.
Right, correct.
How's that middle school approach work?
And that's great. I got to be honest. Like we now we've added field hockey not to the team. I think we're a year or 2 away from adding field hockey at the middle school level. But I got to credit a lot of the gals and some of the guys in the community, because we have a very strong Milford Hopedale youth field hockey program right now. So that's we have the soccer, we have the football. You got to give the parents and the community members a lot of credit for the youth programs, because that matriculates the kids upward scaffolding, right? So that, you don't really want your first field hockey game to be in your freshman year. You don't really want your first wrestling match to be freshman year. You don't. I mean, we have a tremendous Milford wrestling program, K to 12. Same thing with the Stingrays, right? Our swimming, hundreds of kids. That's really how they feed us, and we know
Yeah, I
that.
forgot about Stingrays going to the Casey pool when the kids were tiny.
Yeah, yep. Still doing it. They still do a great job. It's
How
kindergarten
did
through
the swim
18.
team do?
Girls team battled this year. They had a couple of wins this year. We were proud of them. Boys team did something that's really, really challenging to do. They won the dual meet Hockomock League championship, and then when you bring all 12 schools in, they won the Hockomock League championship meet too. And I'll be honest with you, I never give my resume, but I coached like 20 or 21 Hockomock League championship teams in my time. I want to say I've won 3 league meets, 3 out of 21. It's not easy to do, and the boys did that this year. They set records, multiple records, and 2 relay records. One young man broke Kevin Bradley's record. I mean, it's just Coach Jappy and Coach Kate and Coach Oliver. They're continuing. Again, culture. There's culture and traditions in that program, and the boys they hit it out of the park this year.
It's funny to hear Coach Chappie's name. That was around when I was there.
Yeah. I think he said, I want to say, I don't want to get quoted because I know he watches this definitely 30-something years. I mean, he helps run the pool. I mean, he knows more about coaching swimming. He's forgotten more than most coaches know. Let's use that term. He's a guru. He's just a wizard when it comes to swimming.
But again, he's one of these guys that if you wanted to describe a coach that you could be proud of.
Yeah. He's top of the list.
There.
He's there. He's right there.
He
lives for swimming. Lives for it.
I think he lives for the kids.
He does.
And swimming is just his way of doing that. 'Cause
Yeah.
You can see
Yeah.
the dedication. I don't take anything away from him from swimming.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But when you see him interacting with the kids, when you see him
They
talking
adore
about the
him.
kids.
They adore. He's got a very unique coaching style, and the kids and the parents love him. They would go to war for him yesterday. They would. And another really strong indicator, and our programs that have culture, you can see this. When the kids come back, when I say kids, college kids come back over the break to practice with you, or they come home and the first thing they do on a Thanksgiving break is they go to the fall practice, because that's where they want to go. Or over spring break in college, they come out and they check out their lacrosse or their baseball. Pick anything you want, softball, track. That's when you know you're doing it right. And kids, they're 25, 26, and they still swing by when they're 35, 36, or they come back for the alumni game, which is one of the coolest things we do, and most towns don't do it. The alumni games are one of my favorite things that we do. I love them. You get guys as old as me suiting up, and it's just fun. Gals, too. It's just really fun to watch that. It's awesome.
Well, that used to be like with the bands. When you go to the Penn State homecoming, and they invite the blue band,
Yes.
which is nationally known, but they invite the old blue banders to come.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? It's fantastic. That's culture. That's how you build teams and families, and that's where championships really springboard from, I think, because people are afraid to let other people down.
And you got somebody like Chappie. It's not hard for him to get help
No. Oh, no.
because
No.
people they see what he puts into it, and they want to help him.
He probably has 10 to 12 parents for every home dual meet. And we play, 8, 9 teams a season because we have our own pool. That's a lot of help. And at the league meet, it's probably 20. And you have there's people walking in, hey, can I help you? No, I'm here to volunteer. It's like, it's a turnstile. It's awesome. It's you know what, you're bringing up a lot of really great moments of components of the athletic department and program that just really resonate.
Well, I
You know,
mean, you
that are
think
positive.
volleyball, and a name like Zakili,
Oh, I loved her, and I adored her.
and nobody
loved
would ever
working
say
with her.
she was a powder puff.
Are you kidding me? Listen, there are guys. My barber, I go to Stephen Luna, right? He's got a tattoo of her on his arm. Not a joke. Like, these kids loved and worshipped her. Tattoos.
But she loved and worshiped the kids.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the common denominator amongst the gray ones.
No, it is, and I get a little emotional. I really liked her. I did, and she just. I can tell you from being an administrator for almost 20 years, I learned things from her. And not that I don't learn from other people. I just loved the way she did. She was so passionate. She'd practice at midnight if we let her, or 6 a.m. She was just amazing. Fantastic human being. And you're right, the kids knew it. She demanded excellence, but she gave excellence too. And if they needed her, you could call her at midnight.
Well, they do things. I remember looking at my darling bride saying about Heather Johnson.
Oh, yes. Yep. Another great
when
coach.
we were practicing down in
Yep.
the annex, I said, if I ever tried pulling what she's pulling right now,
Oh, my gosh.
it was fall, it was getting
I
dark,
remember this story.
and she had us line the cars up on the
the
hill
spotlights. Yes,
with the headlights on.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm sitting there saying, how did she get away with this? Nobody questioned it.
No, because she's so committed. How can you but it's really difficult to question somebody who's so committed, who gives 24/7, 11 and a half months of the year. How do you question somebody like that? Because they're all in. It's in their DNA. Red and white is in their DNA. Red and white cheer is in her DNA. You can't give her a hard time.
And the cheerleaders did pretty well again.
Oh, yeah, right. Sectional champions, South sectional champions, qualified for nationals, heading to Florida later in March, later this month. Amazing. They invite me every time they go. I love them. I can't get away for that long, but and it's during the season. It's hard, but they're just again, culture, years and years and years of excellence. So what does that say? You have to be good. There's no excuses. You have to live up to the red and white line that they've put forward. I get all excited. Sorry. It's awesome. I love it. I live it. You know what I mean? Like it's a job, but it's also a passion for me. I love doing it, and I love doing it here. This town supports their kids ages 1 to 100, and I love that. It's awesome. It's a good
Talk
place
to me about hockey.
Hockey's, yeah.
Back in '74, we couldn't get enough kids to.
Yeah.
We had to beg kids from our weekend plays to get enough kids to put together.
Yeah.
I guess it was called an intramural team because it wasn't varsity at that point.
Yeah. So we co-op with Hopedale. We send them 12 or 13 great young men every year. This year, and this is I know I say this. I hope it doesn't sound like he keeps saying this, but I really like that team. I really like our kids in hockey. They're fun to watch. They're good kids. They flip a switch. They're amazing and funny and just fun to be around before the game starts or in the halls in the school. They get on that ice, get out of the way, man. Get out of the way because they're coming. They did really well in the Russell division this year. They've won that a couple times through the years, right? League champions. This year they went 2 rounds in the playoffs. They played, I want to say, the number 3 team to a 4-3 loss, but their first round, we went up and played another co-op. They beat them handily. They're just fun, and the fans are rabid. It's just great to be around them. They inspire you,
When you listen to the hockey program synopsis,
yeah,
I cringe when I hear about some of the fans attacking referees.
Yes.
But you never hear that about our teams.
You don't, and I got to be honest. One of those moms that smacked 2 refs is in the league. That's a league-affiliated team, but you don't see that with us because, again, like I think our parents understand, our kids understand, and it just by osmosis and diffusion. And we talk about our core values, right? Like, number 1, relentless pursuit of excellence. 2, championship sportsmanship, and we always say that's everybody. If you bring grandma to the game, grandma's got to behave. We want her to be loud and proud. But grandma needs to behave, and so does your 6-year-old little brother or sister. And and we talk about it so often. And number 3 is Scarlet Hawk 24/7. It merges with the other 2. Be loud and proud, but behave yourself wherever you go. And I think people understand our because we go places and you're like, wow, look at how bad they behave. Look, and we're winning, and look at how great we're behaving. It's a good place to be. It really is.
I remember
Team effort.
in 14 years of coaching soccer, I got one yellow card. That's because we went to a local town, and the referee came over to me and said, "You have to control your parents." And I'd had
Short of
the
swearing, leave 'em
kids
alone.
since they were 6 years old,
Yeah.
so I knew every one of my families. I said, "Sir, I'm surprised. Did somebody say something inappropriate?" The ref said, "Oh no, they're very positive."
What are we talking
I
about
I
here?
said, "Okay, then I don't want to be flippant, but I'm totally confused." He says, "We play library soccer." I looked, I said, "Okay, again,
Not
pardon my
Milford. No,
ignorance,
it's
but
not.
what
That's
is, well, these people are cheering your team on,
That's what we want.
and the other team doesn't get the same enthusiasm."
That's their problem. Sorry.
And I sat there and said, "So you're telling me that my parents are cheering in a positive way, and we can't?"
That's ridiculous.
I looked at him, I said, "Well, sir, with all due respect, I can't deal with
Can't
this.
support that.
On top of that, I value my body parts.
Yes.
And the loudest one of all
Is your wife? I
is my
bet.
wife.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
That's insane.
if you're telling me that they're being disrespectful, if they're being negative, I'll step in right away.
Yes, sure.
But otherwise," and he flipped me a yellow card.
Oh my gosh, that's not acceptable.
And I just shook my head like, I don't get it.
We want them to be like. That's what we're known for, loud and proud. Like that's insane.
But if you think about it, if you're a kid on the field, you never
Library.
admit it, but your mother and father cheering you on.
You love it. You love it. You don't. You would never admit it. Maybe years later, when you've hung up the cleats or the singlet or whatever, pick anyone you want. But would never admit it in high school. But yeah, you like that. Listen, who doesn't want to go out and play in front of a crowd of rabid cheering, loud? That's what you want. It's inspiring. It's motivational. Ooh, that's not. I don't like that.
No, my only yellow card, and that was as a coach.
Wow, that's crazy.
Who else haven't we talked about?
Let me see. We talked about hockey, swim, wrestling.
Basketball.
Boys basketball did well. I got to tell you, I girls basketball. I have told them for a couple years in a row. Like we play. I've said this before. I'm known for saying it wherever I go. We play in the Premier League in New England. We are the best of the best, and we are where we are. It is what it is. This is where we are, and we're gonna battle. You got teams like our girls soccer team and our girls basketball team. They battled for like a 500 record. But I've had meetings with these girls because I want them to know. I think they respect me a fair amount, and I want them to know what I think. And I'll say to them, ladies, I'm so proud of you. Like, if you shut off the scoreboard, nobody has any idea who's winning or losing because you
the
ladies
games
are
I've
battling.
watched have been very back and forth, very
Yes,
controlled.
yeah. And if you shut the scoreboard off and you shut the the timer off, 2 minutes to go, 20 minutes to go, you wouldn't know because the Milford gals are battling. And they're going to battle until the final buzzer, final whistle. And I love that. I love it. It's just.
Then again, there's
it's what we
sports
want.
like girls field hockey that I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, it's hard. Field hockey's got some.
I've
really
never seen
difficult
such a
rules.
complicated set of rules.
Yes. Yep. I think I've said this to you before. In the interview 12 years ago, they said, there was a question that said, what sports could you officiate if the referee or official doesn't show up? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, I got to tell the truth. And I said, all of them except one. And everybody laughed. And one of the panel members said, you mean field hockey,
Field
don't
hockey.
you? And I said, yes. I can watch it. I could probably coach a practice, maybe coach a game. I couldn't officiate. And that particular female had field. She goes, I was hoping you would say that because if you said all, I was going to call you on it. I said, no, I can't. Field hockey's got a lot of really interesting rules, for lack of a better. It's hard to know, what's appropriate, what's not, and what you can only hit with one side of the stick. And
Well, it's counterintuitive to me because
yeah,
playing on the ice,
yes,
the
hockey,
backhand
me
is
too. Yes, I played hockey. Yeah, you got to be able to.
but it's
dribble.
line up this way, do that. Just to know the rules is
Oh,
an accomplishment.
Yes, right. If you graduate playing field hockey and you know the rules by the time, that's a pretty good thing. That's an IQ that's ratcheted it up. It really has.
How has lacrosse come on?
Lacrosse, you know what? That's a good point. Lacrosse is very new in New England. We're dozen to 14, no, closer to 14, 15 years old. That's not a very old sport at a school. We're doing really well. The boys and girls have made the playoffs. They've won playoff games. Our boys team is pressing forward. Our girls team is good. My hope is that both teams make the tournament this spring. I do. We got two really knowledgeable, passionate coaches that both played in college. They both teach in Milford. So the kids know that, there's that accountability factor throughout the day. I'm hopeful that I come back to you in the spring and say, hey, we had some teams.
The lacrosse players, to me, gain so much respect because you're on the ice, I'm on the ice.
Yeah.
I don't know how the puck finds that 1 inch between the pads.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I look at them, that ball is traveling.
Oh, 90 miles an hour.
It's just as hard as a hockey puck.
Yep.
And what do they have on? Nothing.
Nope. I don't understand it. The girls have a little bit more protection than the boys, but the boys choose not to wear. The boys don't wear anything on their legs.
Yeah.
Nothing. Have you? I've been hit by a lacrosse ball twice in my time as a coach and an AD. I got to tell you, it's some of the worst pain. Got it right in the I've ever felt in my entire life. It took all I could do not to have tears of pain and just pretend like, oh, that wasn't so bad, and eat it during the game because I didn't want to show weakness, right? But these goalies and they don't really wear much up top either.
The goalies are the most frightening position.
Oh, I don't know. I don't get it.
Because, I think about, I played D, so a guy would come down, you drop to a knee to block a shot.
Yep.
Of course, you're thinking, what am I doing? This
Yes.
is not, but you got padding.
Yeah. Hockey goalies are protected.
Yes.
Lacrosse, and I played lacrosse a little bit when I was younger, not club, but not for a team, at the high school team. Wow, I don't think and I played goalie for hockey. I don't know if I'd want to jump in between the pipes and lacrosse.
Not a prayer.
Just ouch.
Not a prayer.
Get ready.
But even like you say, lacrosse seems to have been caught on pretty well.
Yeah, no, we're doing, you've got the youth, again, give credit to the youth coaches.
The feeders.
Yep, and our high school coaches really work hard with the younger groups, and it's just.
How are we doing for space? Do we have enough fields?
Can always use more space.
Yeah, you could always use.
That's my good answer, right? Like right now, we have, we're having a challenge right now with. I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow. Town Park was under construction, and baseball is going to be okay. We're going to be able to use that. We're not going to be able to use the softball field. So we have three teams. We have varsity, we have JV, and we have middle school, and we're going to have to get really creative because I believe the information tomorrow is going to say that Town Park's not going to be available. So not only do we lose that practice site, but we lose a game site. And that's a big deal because we're in a middle school league now. We've resurrected since COVID. I've helped, myself and two other ADs have put this league back together, so to speak. We're very thankful for being in this league. Space is a commodity. We can always use more fields, always use more space, indoor space especially. A field house would be super helpful in the next phase of where we're going with the school. We got one chance, right, over the next 50 years to expand and really help our kids.
The SBA came out and said they would not fund a field house.
Yeah, they don't do that.
And a lot of people then said, well, then we can't do it. But they also said they would not fund 7th grade. We were invited to build an 8th through 12.
Oh, right, yes.
And because of space needs
Yep.
and curriculum, with considering, can we do a 7 through 12?
Yeah, yep.
Now, we have to pay dollar for dollar for the 7.
Oh, right, for the extra space, right?
But
yeah.
I think the logic is, as soon as this high school is scary, because it's going to be $300 million.
Yeah.
We don't have any real numbers. That's just a guess. But if I
Yeah.
look at all the schools
You know,
around
comparable. And recently, right? Yeah, sure.
But as soon as we're done with the high school, Stacy's right on our tail.
It's got to be next, yeah. Yeah, it's hard. But I will say this, and I'm not just being a homer on this comment. I've lived in a couple of towns over my 54 years on the planet. I've worked 2 other high schools. I've worked at a college. Nobody plans like Milford, and I know you're part of that, and I want to thank you all because you folks look a decade ahead. I come from I don't even like saying it out loud. I come from a town district. I don't live there anymore, but they don't even look a year or two ahead. And they're always cutting people and cutting this and cutting that.
Well, but
Milford knows what they're
we
doing.
don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We have 5 major schools,
Mhm.
when you think about it. The average life of a school is 40,
Yeah.
maybe 45
Yeah,
years.
these days, yeah. Yep.
So every 8 to 10 years, you're building or renovating, you're doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to believe that Woodland is already almost a decade
Yes,
old.
yeah, Woodland just opened up, or was on the cusp, a year or two away. I actually remember doing some presentations in the old Woodland. But you're right, it's about a decade old right now. Nobody would think that. If you had asked me, I would have immediately said, oh, it's 5 or 6. No, it's 10 or 11. But, I'll make one comment about the field house. I get that it won't be reimbursed, the 50% or whatever that number is. But I got to tell you, the schools that did it, the Northbridge right down the road, Hopkinton, Shrewsbury, right? That's an investment for 40 to 45 years. And, your kids are not out late because you've got so many courts. You don't have people practicing like from 7 to 9 like we do now, or 6 to 8 even. Everybody goes earlier, which means your youth can get in there early evenings. They're practicing early evenings. And then you can get some other, community use programs. I would say we got one chance to make that.
It's a generational question.
Yeah. And I think if anybody would answer the bell, it's the Milford people.
And
I do.
again, every 8 to 10 years. So when we're done with this high school.
Got to move on.
Now, initially, when the SBA said, we won't pay for anything, you have to do it dollar for dollar, everybody lost hope.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
again, it's going to be hard enough trying to sell a $300 million school. And again, it could be more, could be less, but I
Yeah.
don't think it'll be less.
In the ballpark, yeah. You're definitely in the right nucleus there.
I don't know that there's that much of a difference between a 300 and a 307.
No. I mean, that's a good point. Like, when you're talking about that type of environment, like, okay, 250 to 300, that's a big difference, right? But 3 to 305, 306, I get it. And that's that investment, that 6 or 7 million. That's a 45-year investment where, and I don't say this lightly, like, if you have a couple of basketball courts, that's a couple of volleyball courts, that's a couple of, wrestling environments. Maybe you put a walking or running track around it. There's a chance you could generate revenue. I know we're not worried about that in Milford. We don't ever do that. It could be there on weekends, but the opportunity to increase and amplify your programming for your kids.
That I'll buy.
Right?
Every time I've ever heard we can make revenue off of it,
Yeah.
nah.
I will say this. I know the Hopkinton AD. I know that they generate revenue with their track. I know they do. I don't know. I could call Shrewsbury. I could Northbridge. I know they rent it out.
You can generate some revenue.
Yeah.
But it's never going to be a revenue generating positive.
It's not going to be a tremendous. It might pay for maybe the maintenance or whatnot. But I have to be honest. I love the Milford perspective. We don't really worry about making, generating revenue. What we want to do is take care of our kids, ages 1 to 100, right? Like, we make sure that we're programming for everybody.
Yeah,
I love
I'd be
that.
more worried that if we started this full throttle program to generate revenue,
It's not a good move.
the wear and tear
Yes, correct.
is going to bite us.
Yeah, no, and I buy into that. I do. I do support that, and I can continue to support that. I would really put my weight behind kids ages 1 to 100. We have just tremendous programs: middle school, elementary school, youth, high school, adult ed, all the things that community use is doing, and all the other programming that goes on. It's powerful.
It's not dead. Nothing. We haven't gone into a feasibility study yet.
Sure.
But the whole idea of a 7th grade probably makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Because trying to expand Stacy,
the footprint isn't there,
there's
right?
nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. Yeah, you don't have the footprint.
You're stuck.
Yeah. Yep.
And doing anything to expand Stacy, you can always do it, but the cost may be so tremendous.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about it right now. Like, I've studied the high school situation and been in some other high schools.
Plus,
when they were renovating.
it's old Milford. When I came back to Milford from abroad, I remember looking at Stacy, and we had to renovate it. Or the logical, financially prudent decision would have been to tear it down
Yeah.
and build an ugly glass
Yes,
building.
some new sort of structure, right, sure.
But that was Milford granite. That
Yes,
was Milford
yeah.
history.
Yes, yeah, yep.
And there's certain things you do, we squeeze every year, to save money where we can. And I know a lot of people don't believe that with this year, $176 million
Wow.
budget. Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. When we were kids, you could have bought Milford for that.
Yeah,
They would have thrown in
exactly,
Oakdale and
It's
Mendon.
inflation, though, compounds.
It's still 176
Yeah,
million.
it's a lot of money.
But, you start looking at saying, there's certain things you do because it's the right thing to do. The Milford
Yes.
pool. You do it because it's Milford.
Right,
And you pay for it by
Take care of your
squeezing
own.
everywhere else.
yes.
And we are lucky that the department heads in Milford are really, really committed.
No, I agree.
We're starting with the school department. And this is the time of year when the school department comes in and says, we need $1 billion increase. And the finance committee says, we're destitute, we're broke.
Yeah.
And then we say, okay, now what's real?
Right, yeah, right, exactly, like, let's,
Last year the school department was at 7.5%, and we were at 6.5%. And we had to work out how
that
to get.
1%, right.
This year it's 9.5% versus 7.5%.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that we'll work out a compromise
Yeah,
somewhere.
me too.
So, anything left?
Well, I'll tell you what, New England's this weekend for, all states for cheer this weekend. New England's for wrestling, New England's for track and field. We got kids going all of those. Spring's opening up. I got to look at my March 17th. So we're a couple weeks away, and, kids, the young folk out there should be practicing, working out now. I always say, don't make the first day of practice your first day of practice in the spring. Get going now. So yeah, we're excited. We're excited to open up in a couple weeks, and I promise I'll come back in the spring and we'll give you the good news
I
about.
look forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I
And if
enjoy
we
coming
haven't
here.
said it, not that I can speak for the community, but thank you for your attitude
Thank you. I
and
appreciate
what
it.
values you instill in our kids.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And thanks for winning some games.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, we like to win too. No, it's a labor of love. I'm passionate about. I feel fortunate to be able to do this job in Milford.
Well, we're fortunate to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And to our 6 loyal viewers, I hope you got a perspective on not just how the teams are doing, but why they're doing so well. And someday we'll take a moment and start looking at how the graduates do. Because it's one thing to get the kids into Duke, to get them into schools like this. The good news is they stick and they graduate. So we're doing the right things, both athletically and academically. So as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, may God bless. May tomorrow be a better night than tonight.